Ikkyu Shin Nagura from Japan makes whetstones made to feel like Japanese natural stones, but they are largely synthetic. Well, what do you say we test these bad boys in today's video? Good day everyone, and welcome back to the channel. Today I will be testing whetstones sent to me by Rocky Tsujio from H&K LLC. Rocky was the one who also sent me the 7 Parker Asahi synthetic rubber cutting boards, which I reviewed here. So, thanks again Rocky for both those boards and now these stones. If you've been a longtime fan of the channel, you know that I am no sharpening wizard. No, there are far better sharpeners than I with an actual reputation for being great sharpeners, such as Zach Peters from Tokushu Knife or even the YouTube sensation Greg from Never a Dull Moment. I'm good, but I'm no pro. I sharpen my knives when I need to and know the proper steps to putting an edge, when to change sides, how to progress my sharpening progression, but most importantly, as we all know, the deburring process. I don't test the edge of my knives on a Scott towel, nor do I care to have them cut a Scott towel. The edges I put on my knives are 98% tutti, with the exception of my single bevel knives or knives destined to be flesh slicers. So with that being said, my approach for testing these stones is going to be more about first impressions. Stones can be used in a variety of different ways, with different steels and combinations. Example, 500 synthetic, 1K synthetic, 3K Jnat, and stop. Bring it up to 8K synthetic or Jnat and stop. Stop at 1K, strap on leather, strap on your jeans, use a honing steel, gunny juice, you get the point. So my actual sharpening footage will be minimal, as I'm not looking for criticism here. Instead, I want to let you know how I found them compared to other stones I've used in the past. My main kit, until I received these, was largely a Sharpening Glass 500, 1000, 3000, with a Takeda Jnat and some Uchigumori finger stones. Now, to not only give you first impressions, but to compare first impressions based on another opinion I saw floating around the internet, I'm going to base my sharpening progression on conclusions from none other than Chef's Edge. Let's take a look at their thoughts on these stones, something they shared in their Instagram story just a few weeks ago. And so, to mimic their conclusions and see if they stand true for myself, I will be testing these stones on my Takamura Uchigoma no Hana 240mm R2 gyuto, going no further than the 3K stone, and on my Baldwin Blades 214mm spicy white gyuto, all the way up to the 6K. About the stones, here's the claim. We don't know the specifics down to the material percentage composition of the stones, except the stones are made of synthetic materials with a combination of other materials such as Japanese natural stone powder to emphasize that Jnat feel. Supposedly, some of these have Mikawa Nagura powder, helping to make the mud richer and fulfilling the role of the original Nagura. Mikawa being a province in Japan known for their Naguras. So, my first impressions. I liked the boxes they came in. They felt very posh. The speckle design kind of reminds me of granite. All stones were soaked for about 15 minutes prior to use. The 1K was impressively thick, which I appreciated, especially since I was told it was a softer stone than most 1K stones. In fact, I already knew it was soft because the ink on the stone was running off even in the container when I was soaking it, and this only on the 1K stone. Now let's talk about my experience when sharpening the Takamura stainless from 1K to 3K. As advised by Chef's Edge, of course. I was immediately impressed with the 1K on my Takamura. Definitely felt much softer of a stone to use than my 1K Sharpening Glass and a few others of the 1K stones I've had the opportunity to try. I'll definitely need to frequently flatten the stone to ensure no harmful valleys are created, damaging both the edge or even just your sharpening angle. Slurry was a little slow to build, but once it built, it was clearly present on the stone and doing its job. An extremely fast cutting stone. Hard to say if it's faster than the 1K Sharpening Glass, as I don't remember the last time I used it, but I almost want to say it felt like it cut faster than the Sharpening, which is extremely impressive as that's the reputation of the Sharpening Glass. The sound of the stone felt a little bit more like you'd expect from a synthetic, and after using it for under 3 minutes, I even liked the polish it gave on the edge of this knife. Some micro abrasions, but somehow even the scratch patterns were aesthetically pleasing. The 1K Edge Takamura Cherry Tomato test was incredible. A whole lot of bite and I didn't even strop it. I was very impressed with how sharp the 1K made my Takamura, how quick the stone was, and even, as I mentioned earlier, the abrasion patterns. First impressions of the 3K stone. Freaking loved it. The 3K, aka Clogger McCloggersome, will need a Nagura as it clogged very, very quickly. The particulates were pretty much immovable until I used a Nagura. Another super fast stone. Love the feel and the feedback on the cutting edge of this Takamura. With the 3K, all of a sudden, it didn't feel like a synthetic stone anymore under my fingers. I love this 3K stone so much, more than my Shapting Glass 3K, it will be my go-to. The cutting performance is part of that, but really, it's all about the feel of the stone. So pleasing on the ears and on the hands. You can barely even hear it. It's quite silent. Nice polishing, removing the micro scratches from the previous 1K. More of a satin, cloudy finish. So far, this is the stone I'm in love with. Let's talk about the experience of my carbon steel Baldwin Blades Gyuto from the 1K to 6K stone progression. Having used the 1K and 3K moments ago on the Takamura, the slurry of the 1K seemed to have improved now that I have been using the stone for roughly 10 minutes. The carbon steel edge I was able to put on the Baldwin Blades Gyuto wasn't as fine and toothy as when I used it on the Shapting Glass 1K. I did find the 1K to perform better, however, on the Takamura. By better, I mean even burr creation and general toothiness. Here already, with a second knife on the stone, I came to immediately appreciate once again the extra height of the stone, since it's quite soft, which means it'll last a longer time than if the same height was to be found on the other stones, but I will have to flatten it more often. The 3K experience on the Baldwin was excellent as well. But if I'm comparing between the two knives, once again, I enjoyed the experience more on the Takamura. You can see there's a bit of a pattern here. Super muddy, silky slurry, nice satin-esque finish. The 6K, great feedback, nice slurry, and as I progressed to the 6K, I did feel like the stones were starting to give me more of a Jnat feedback. Not sure if that's more a result of finer grit or proportion of Jnat powder in the higher grit finished stones, but either way, the point is the sharpening experience became more and more pleasing. Nice polish on the carbon steel knife, clogged as expected, but not as bad as the 3K stone, which was easy to clean. I didn't need a Nagura as often as I did on the 3K. Simple swipe of the hand across the stone surface, and I was good to go. Now for first impressions, loose conclusions based on my limited experience with these. Comparing the three stones now with two different knives, a carbon steel and a stainless steel. Super fast on both types of steels, but really appreciate the performance on the powdered steels. The Takamura with the 3K edge is bleeping fantastic. Cuts cherry tomatoes as if it was a 800 grit finish. My favorite stone to use was by far the 3K, amazing feedback and fast. The 6K was nice too, but almost too smooth with little feedback on the carbon steel. I could probably have done a bit of a better job with the 6K, but I still succeeded in putting a nice edge on the knife, which I was very happy with. I wasn't a fan of the feedback of the 1K, but did appreciate how fast it was, as well as the toothiness in particular it gave to my Takamura. All stones were easy to clean and dried rather quickly, all things considered. So, that's it. My conclusions of the Ikkyu Shin Nagura stones on two different types of steels. All really pleasant to use with great results. The 3K is my winner, and will especially be meeting the edge of many of my stainless steel knives. So here's the thing, in general I do agree with Chef's Edge except for one piece of information. When they say a great stone for beginners, and the reason I disagree there is because it's true that it is fast cutting and therefore that means you get faster results. But as a beginner myself, I never once thought about flattening your stones. I didn't even know that was a thing. I was just focused on having the correct angle and then learning what it meant to deburr. And so I would not advise this, in fact, to beginners for exactly that reason. I think there are more important things for you to focus on. That's not to say that you shouldn't flatten your stones, but what it does mean is that maybe with a harder stone, one that does not valley so quickly, you can concentrate on your sharpening angle and deburring as opposed to also thinking about flattening your stones. So not that I discourage this to beginners, but I wouldn't advise it to beginners. As usual, if you like this video, please consider subscribing to the channel to support what I do and sharing this content. Thanks again, Rocky and H&K LLC, and until next time.